perhaps you were born for such a time as this. Hello, everyone, and welcome to Faith and Freedom. I'm Shemane Nugent. We've got a jam-packed show for you today, including coming up later, I have some guests and I who are going to talk about toxic mold and what you need to know about it. But first, while the mainstream media is obsessing over poll numbers and stale scandals, President Trump's been quietly flexing global muscle. The latest, a monster trade move with the EU, and it could flip the script on energy, manufacturing, even food production. But this isn't just about dollars, it's about power and sovereignty. America calling the shots again. Joining me now, Anthony Esposito, founder of Island Capital Investments and someone who tracks these deals like a hawk. Anthony, welcome. And what exactly did President Trump just pull off with the EU?
Yeah, he pulled off another impressive victory or win in this tariff war that everyone was freaking out about. He's lining up the shots. The victory with the EU, that was a trade deal that puts us in much better standing with a top 5 trade partner. He's already rolled through with the UK and Japan and Vietnam. This trade deal is really massive. So it puts us in position to overcome what's about a $250 billion trade deficit with the EU. We have a 15% tariff that they will now pay. We pay 0 going out. We have $600 billion in investments, private investments from the European Union coming back into the United States, and they're agreeing to buy $750 billion worth of U.S. energy. That means that we would be supplying with the EU. We would be their supplier of about 2/3 of their energy. So global power, right? We're getting back on a level playing field. We're generating wealth for the country. We're bringing investment back into the country. And then on a global stage, on a strength stage, we become the energy supplier for the EU. And guess who's not? Russia. So he's definitely, the trade deal worked out very well on all aspects, all angles. He continues to win. This was just the most recent win that he's kind of chalked up on the board.
I don't understand how anybody can criticize this. I mean, it just seems like a win-win for the United States. What are your thoughts on why the left are just going crazy after all these trade deals?
I think the more he wins, the crazier they get. I think their love of power and politics has completely overshadowed any love of country that they may have. And I say that honestly with a heavy heart. We should be rooting for our president and our leaders to win and succeed regardless of their party. That means we all succeed. But their hatred of Trump supersedes any love of country or love of success for the country. I don't have a better explanation than that. It truly does not make sense to me.
Yeah, it's such a shame. It's so sad to even think about that. What's wrong with America first, you know? But I want to ask you about how this is all going to hit not only energy, but farmers and factory workers here at home with all of these trade deals.
I think it's a great point. If you look at all of the deals and you dissect where the investments are coming in from our trade partners into the U.S. and what products we're getting our trade partners to now open up to, it's manufacturing, it's farm products, it's energy. It's the core of what will rebuild this country inside out, and he continues to do that. So it will affect the major industry of the country. It will put us on a stronger standing on the global stage, and it will increase private investment and growth here. As far as GDP growth, true GDP growth, not government-funded Biden GDP growth, which was fake and inflationary, true private investment, GDP growth, job growth, strength of dollar, the ability for the average American worker to succeed and attain the American dream, which has been lost through very poor left-leaning Democrat Biden policies.
Yeah. So you've been studying this a lot. What makes these deals Trump style and not globalist nonsense?
Trump, in one word. You know,
but the
President
art of the deal, the art of the deal, they don't grasp that.
No, they don't. And it's, you know, the ability to lead. My father has always told me my entire life about 95% of people in this world are not leaders. It was about 5% of us can be leaders and can move and actually move mountains. and make it look easy. I would put President Trump in the top, 0.5% there. President Trump has been saying the same things for 50 years, for 40 years. If you go back and you listen to interviews from back in the 90s and the 80s, he was saying the same exact thing. He holds true. He is the master negotiator. He has a very large stick, and he's not afraid to use it, and everyone knows that. So with that in hand, and with the power of the United States behind him, the largest consumer in the world, the largest economy in the world, the strongest military in the world, if you have that and you know how to wield that power and you're not afraid to use it, you could be very, very dangerous on the world stage in a good way. And I think President Trump continues to show that.
It's quite amazing to me that there are opposing forces within our own country who want to see President Trump fail. But this is bringing so much prosperity to the United States. We're bringing in so much revenue. Do you have any idea how much?
Right now, they were talking about 200 billion that we've taken in. That was the last number that I saw in revenue from the tariff negotiations. That doesn't include the trillions plus of private investment into the country, and that doesn't include future growth as we are able to export more goods tariff-free in a lot of cases to buyers overseas that normally, our goods were blocked, whether they were non-tariff barriers or they were outright tariffs, and just made it impossible for our farmers to export. So, whether we're talking about autos or tomatoes, the numbers are real. The numbers will continue to grow. And I think that as President Trump succeeds, two things will happen. Those with Trump derangement syndrome, that pool of the people swimming in that pool will shrink, because the light will be shown on the benefits and of his policies, of his administration. And people will start to see that things are actually better. And he actually does know how to lead and does know how to make life better for the average American. So as he continues to win, we will continue to win. And the pool of those that are just, hating on the country, hating on the administration, will eventually, the oxygen will be sucked out of that room and they will dry up. I do believe that.
What do you think is going to happen with China?
So China's interesting. Very short term, I think that the negotiations do need to be extended, and I think they will be. I don't think we're going to get this done by the deadline. There's a lot going on there. They're a global adversary. Anyone who doesn't believe that or see that is silly. We're talking about everything from fentanyl production to the purchase of sanctioned oil from Russia to potentially giving Russia access to the SWIFT system and able to move U.S. dollars around the globe. So there's a lot going on there that's not directly trade related, but these negotiations are going to include everything. There is definitely a need to be a hardline negotiator with China. Forget the fact that they are a massive surplus nation as far as goods sent versus goods received. So our trade deficit with China is massive. There's a lot to go through here with a very powerful adversary. But at the end of the day, I do think we will reach a deal. I do think we will reach the right deal for the United States. I just think it's going to take a little more time.
Yeah, unfortunately, but it's all good, because I feel like I would hate to be a fly on the wall in their negotiating rooms, because they've got to be saying, this President Trump, he's not backing down, and he has shown that he's not going to. That's truly the art of the deal, right?
Absolutely. The thing that scares me, and I agree, I would love to be a fly on the wall in those rooms and listen to the negotiating and the conversations. The thing that but the thing that I would keep in mind is the Chinese play the long game, and we have obviously 3 more years now, give or take, for President Trump's administration. So we need to position the country in a place where we are all in line with conservative American policies, American first policies, where we will continue to succeed and continue this path without President Donald Trump in the Oval Office. And I think that that's something that the Chinese may be playing a little long ball here and figuring in a few years, with enough disruption and enough Trump derangement syndrome within the U.S., President Trump could leave. They could end up with a new Biden, a Kamala, God forbid, and then we end up in a spot where we're starting the negotiations over now from a position of weakness versus a position of strength with President Trump. So I am sure that the Chinese are negotiating hard and trying to figure out the best path. I think that we need to be able to look beyond President Trump. He is He's doing a masterclass job of fixing what's been wrong in this country
He
on
really
every
is.
level.
He
But I
really
think that
is.
will look longer term.
Anthony, thank you so much for joining me. I appreciate it. I hope you come back again soon.
Thank you for having me. I would love to.
God bless. Okay, I want to share an important announcement from our friend Mike Lindell. He's extending an incredible offer to all of you, all of the viewers of this Faith in Freedom show for your continued support. Check out mypillow.com and use the promo code FAITH. That's mypillow.com and use the promo code FAITH for a discount. We need to support patriot business owners. Keep your dollars here in the United States. Mike Lindell wants to thank you, but he also needs your support. All right, everybody, don't go away. We'll be right back with much more faith and freedom.
Because it's the outsiders who change the world.
Perhaps you were born for such a time as this. Okay, we are out for our daily
Celebrating the great spirit of the wild outdoors.
A lot of people realize that we are hunters. We love to hunt and we love to have pure lean venison. We're not always successful. So what do we do, Ted?
Switch to America with shemane beef.
We're going to actually go home and have a ribeye right now. We pulled it out to thaw, and I'm super excited because we've both been out hunting. It's tough. It's not like you can go, okay, God, cue the deer.
I think I got 29 days in a row that the deer have avoided me. I don't know why that is, but we have switched to America with shemane beef to compensate for the days that the deer don't show up. Get the best, healthiest, natural beef in the world. I swear we believe in this stuff, and what goes into the sacred temple determines your quality of life and health. And quality beef, like Switch to America with shemane beef, is the best you can eat.
Now, Jackson's way up there. We got to go catch him. I'm not kidding. It's the best beef ever. Go to switchtoamericawithshemane.com. So he's a COVID truth teller, a health freedom warrior. He pushed early treatments when the system said, wait, and we're going to see what happens. Now he's still fighting for patients, for truth, and for God-led medicine. The cities of Midland and Odessa honored him with Dr. Richard Bartlett Day. So while the system tried to silence him, God had other plans. Dr. Richard Bartlett joins me right now. Welcome.
Well, thank you, Shemane. I'm honored to be with you today.
Well, we're honored to have you here. Dr. Richard Bartlett Day. How cool is that?
When they tried to destroy me, it's pretty cool.
Yeah.
So the people of Midland and Odessa, where I live, know that I was telling the truth, and that there's a lot of people that are alive today because of that. But we had CNN and Fauci and Tedros and others trying to squash me, and I'm still here.
Well, I'm grateful you are, because you're one of the few doctors who are pushing for truth and always have been. But before we get into the FDA, I want to get your take on RFK Jr.'s deep state from the inside. He's taken him down on his own team after Moderna's new mRNA vaccine was approved without his knowledge. He fired 2 senior staffers, and one of them reportedly crashed her car into his on the way out. You can't make this stuff up, Richard, but it shows just how deep the swamp goes, even in campaigns built on medical freedom. But Richard, you're on the sounding board. You're sounding the alarm on so many of these things. What's your take on that?
So when the Moderna booster got slipped through without his knowledge or consent as the person in charge of HHS, I texted him and said, what happened? And I got an immediate response: civil disobedience. That the, quote, careers slipped that past before he had Marty McCary in place. You're the first news outlet that I have shared that text with. And I'm telling you, he is fighting a civil war from within. I can tell you, knowing what's going on in healthcare and knowing what's going on with RFK, I can tell you, if RFK says it's true, it's true. If he says something's a bad idea, it's a bad idea. If he says it's a good idea, it's a good idea. I've got plenty of experience with him and with healthcare that I can say that with confidence. And so when he fired those 2 staff members, one of them took a car and rammed his car. That's just bizarre.
It's unbelievable. And when I first heard that, Dr. Bartlett, I was like, oh, okay. Well, he comes from a Democrat family. I'm sure maybe this was his way of getting into the Trump system, the Trump team. But I'm so glad that you are sharing this information with my audience here on Faith and Freedom, because it's important. We need to know that there is a swamp. There's a deep state, but it's also in all of these 3-letter agencies, isn't it?
It is, Shemane, and there's still some sinister plans that are being pushed, but the RFK is on our side. He is for patient rights, constitutional rights, and transparency. And there are people who are embedded in the CDC still that have all the protections of a federal employee that is keeping them from being removed, that are anti his Make America Healthy Again agenda. He's for taking mercury out of shots, no longer in serial injections of mercury, a known neurotoxin. He's for removing other dangerous cancer-causing chemicals out of food products that are not legal in Europe for the last 20 years. He's for making things obvious to the parents and to the American people. But there are people who are against him and against that agenda that are still in the CDC, HHS, and are adversarial to the American people. And so we need to support RFK. We need to pray for RFK. And he's had a lot of wins, but it's been a struggle.
One of those people that we are not sure about is Dr. Vinay Prasad, now in a powerful role at the FDA. Who is he? How did a radical leftist end up in Trump's healthcare agenda?
And so the latest news, he's no longer with HHS as of the last 48 hours. And so RFK is having victories, but you're exactly right. How in the world did this guy come in when Trump came in? And so we have people that are still deep state embedded. I can tell you, RFK did not get his first or second choice for CDC director. The new director has been in the system for decades. That should tell you something. Mm-hmm. She's not a medical doctor. She's not a nurse. She's not a medically trained person, cannot treat one person, and she's in charge of the CDC. This was not RFK's first choice or second choice, because I know who his first choice was. He asked me to be the CDC director, and that was shut down by the Trump transition team. And then the second fella, seriously. And so the second person was a doctor who was planning on going through the Senate confirmation hearings, and the Trump transition team pulled the plug on that an hour before the hearings were going to resume. And so I know who the first 2 choices of RFK were, and this is a default that is put in by, I got to say, it's not an accident that the Trump transition team is still in control. And I don't know if Trump's aware of it, but there seems to be an agenda to have AI embedded, not just as a tool for healthcare, but to replace 9 out of 10 doctors and to further concentrate power under a few people's control. The American people will be under a few people's control, according to Bill Gates. He says in 10 years, he's going to replace 9 out of 10 doctors with AI. And so this current CDC director.
Bill Gates is saying that?
Yes. And this current CDC director has for the last 6 years been pushing AI in healthcare. The same agenda.
I don't understand how Bill Gates got involved in healthcare anyway, compared to Robert F. Kennedy Jr. And by the way, I need to talk to him about toxic mold. You know my story about that, my history. And he even said, talked about, these are some of the things, and he listed mold as one of them. What's causing kids to be ill and to have asthma and allergies and ADD? But first, before we go, I only got a couple minutes. I want to get your take on there's a new virus, and apparently Japan is creating a Frankenstein bird flu. What do you know about that?
It's true. We've already done this experiment with our U.S. taxpayer dollars. We have allowed gain of function to do gain of function to make a bioweapon called COVID. It didn't turn out well. So why are we doing this again? Not only did they make the bioweapon, but they've made the vaccine for bird flu. So we've already seen how this turns out. And we've been warned by a former CDC director, Redfield, that COVID was just a wake-up call. The great pandemic will be a bird flu that'll kill 10 to 15% of Americans. That should not be allowed to continue, and it's happening right now. It was going 100 miles an hour under the Biden administration, and the plug and they have not pulled the plug on this yet. RFK understands what's going on, but he's surrounded by sharks, by deep state. And we need to pray for RFK. And they're trying to remove him from that position any way they can. So we need to support him. He's got enemies within the Republican side and the Democrat side, just to be clear.
Richard, we only have about 30 seconds left, but I want to get your take on, they're poisoning our skies. They're putting vaccines in lettuce, and I've heard dental floss and so many other nefarious things. What can the average American do? This is not just about freedom. It's about medical freedom, about our health. What's your advice to us that we're just sitting here waiting for the next pandemic?
Talk to your congressman. Support the bill to abolish the PrEP Act. That has taken away your constitutional rights, your parental rights since 2005. That's how children were dropped off at school to be educated. They were pinned down, kicking and screaming, saying, my parents don't want me to get this experimental shot. They get it, and then it's thrown out of court when the parents find out and sue because the judge says they have no standing. We need to support Representative Massey's bill to repeal and abolish the PrEP Act and get our constitutional rights back.
Repeal and abolish the PrEP Act. Got it. Dr. Richard Bartlett, thank you so much for joining me. I always love it when you come on, and I hope you will again soon with good news.
Yes, thank you.
Don't go away. We'll be right back.
Relish the opportunity to be an outsider, because it's the outsiders who change the world.
Perhaps you were born for such a time as this. Little confession to make. I don't always eat right. In fact, I love chocolate chip cookies. I love Fritos. I love lasagna. But you know what I do to compensate for those things? I go to fieldofgreens.com and I get a doctor formulated specific drink, energy drink that has changed my life. I put 1 scoop of Field of Greens in my water and I get all my essential nutrients for the day, my vegetables and my greens and my fruits and vegetables. It's all to help your lungs and kidneys and metabolism and even healthy weight. I notice the energy, and you will too. And so will your doctor. Your doctor's going to say, hey, what have you been doing? So go to fieldofgreens.com and use the promo code FAITH. That's fieldofgreens.com and use the promo code FAITH for 20%. No, I take that back. Promo code is FREEDOM for 20% off your order. Fieldofgreens.com, and that code is FREEDOM. Many of you know that toxic mold stole my health, my home, and nearly my life. And I was misdiagnosed, dismissed, and left searching for answers that no one had for me. That's why I wrote the book, Killer House, to warn others and offer real practical solutions. And now I fight so you don't have to go through what I did. Sadly, we're not alone. I'm not alone. And there's more people on this fight with me. Joining me today are 2 of the boldest voices in the fight for health freedom, Brandon Chappo and Erica Thompson from Change the Air Foundation, a national nonprofit raising awareness about toxic mold, indoor air quality, and the silent epidemic affecting millions of families. And they're working to educate, advocate, and to push for policy that protects people, not just buildings. So Brandon and Erica, thank you so much for joining me.
Thank you so much.
Thanks for
We
having us,
appreciate it.
Shemane.
So I don't know who wants to go first. I'd say ladies first, but tell us about Change the Air Foundation.
Yeah,
Brandon, I'll
well,
let you
Shemane,
take that.
okay, great. Well, yeah, again, Shemane, thank you so much for all your advocacy that you've done for mold and just getting this out there to people. It's so important. Again, I'm Brandon Chappo. I'm Director of Public Policy and a co-founder of Change the Air Foundation. We're a nonprofit. We help families and individuals breathe safe indoor air and live in healthier homes. My story, just a little bit backstory. I got really sick living in a water damaged building in Cleveland several years ago and realized that there was just a lack of public health awareness, consumer protections, research dollars and appropriations going to this problem that is affecting at least 50% of our homes here in the United States. So not only have we been working on the residential side to try to give people at the foundation resources to help support them through this fairly complex experience, but we teamed up with warriors just like Erica that are in the military, that are serving courageously, that many of these families are just so sick and fighting for basic habitable living standards. So we've been leaning into the military side of this recently, and we're honored to do so.
Erica, tell us about your story with toxic mold.
Sure. Well, I've been a military spouse for 21 years. My husband's in the Air Force, and we moved on base and we noticed some issues right away. And so we put in the service calls and they said, listen, we can't afford to fix your AC. It's at 70% humidity. And we ended up getting 5 dehumidifiers and dumping about 6 gallons of water a day in that home. Some issues with mold rot, wood rot, mold in the windows. They came and opened up the parts of the home, the walls, the ceilings. We noticed about 6 months into it that our family was starting to get sick. Our dog started having seizures, and he was a healthy 4-year-old dog. He had lab work and he was in great health when we moved on base. He started having seizures. And then 10 days later, one of our kids started passing out in the house. And so we noticed an onslaught of medical issues. And that's when they came and opened up the walls. They noticed there was mold everywhere in the ceiling, in the window casings, and they did not contain any of it. So it contaminated the entire home. After they opened the walls, we saw even more medical issues, and we were able to get out of the home. They placed us in a temporary home, and that had toxic mold. Spore count in the rooms were super high. The kids' rooms was 950,000 just on the kids' rooms alone. And so we were seeing things with their breathing, with lymph nodes, with, and I know you can identify with some of those symptoms. You're thinking, where is this coming from? And so when the mold was seen, we were sort of that aha moment where we knew, okay, this is way worse than what we thought. So we have since been diagnosed, 4 of them, with toxic mold exposure, with asthma and POTS and cardiac issues. We have 1 kid who's been diagnosed with bilateral pediatric cataracts from toxic mold exposure, which I didn't even know was possible. And so that's when we teamed up with Change the Air, when we realized, hey, we're not the only ones. This is a nationwide issue. And so we started reaching out and advocating for families across the nation.
Well, Erica, I'm so sorry. Veterans should not have to go through this. The military should be in pristine. I mean, they were talking about putting, I don't want to make this a political event, but we've talked a lot of times. I don't even know which side of the aisle you both are on, but it doesn't matter. If they're putting migrants into 4-star hotels in New York City, why are our veterans in such horrible living conditions? It doesn't make sense.
Yes, so we have seen, we went to Congress. I took all 5 kids. We made it our homeschool project, and I wrote a bill in April, and we call it the Mom Bill, but it's Military Housing Accountability and Transparency Act. And there was another bill, also the Healthy Home on Base Act, that we were asking Congress for. And we were actually pleasantly surprised to see that it's got bipartisan support. Every person, we visited over 38 offices, and every single office felt the same way, that we've got to make changes. This has to change.
It
It's
does.
rare
Brandon,
that there's an issue that brings together. You're right. It's amazing.
well, thank you so much. And Brandon, what are some of the things, what are the wins that you're working towards right now?
Yeah, so right now, again, as she just mentioned, the Healthy at Home on Base Act, basically asking the Department of Defense, all military branches, to standardize mold remediation. So you heard those stories about some maintenance folks or people going into the homes and just ripping the walls open with all this toxic mold, not having any containment, which is terrible. We're asking them to follow a consensus voluntary standard for that, which exists, so that when they're doing the work, it's done properly and safely. We're also pushing to see if they can get rid of these non-disclosure agreements for these families, which basically prohibits them from sharing data and from sharing their stories, so that we can get a better grasp on the scope and scale of the problem. So those are just a few of the things right now that a lot of the congressional offices are getting behind. But I can tell you this, I know that the political climate is a little sharp, but as Erica mentioned, we didn't meet with one office who wasn't behind this. So there wasn't anybody who was pro mold, which was really heartening for us. So we're just hoping to continue this momentum in this National Defense Authorization Act so we can get it across the finish line.
I've only got a couple minutes left, but from either one of you, what can people do? You're in Ohio, I think, Brandon. What can people do in other states? Because the laws are different in every state. And you and I have tried to work on Texas. Texas, we're coming for you. But what can we do rather than sitting on our hands?
Yeah, well, first and foremost, you can come to changetheairfoundation.org and come to our advocacy and policy page and write us, and we'd be happy to help work with you to get your voice elevated to make a difference in your state. But also, even if you weren't working with us, you can contact your state legislator and type in your address, get their email, get their phone number, tell them your story. As constituents, this is why they're in the job, is to try to improve their communities. So this issue really resonates with them. But if they don't know about it and people aren't telling them about it, they're not able to do anything. But we would love to help you at Change the Air Foundation. We've had a lot of success at the state level, getting a lot of different proposals up just to try to help everybody get this finished and to make some progress. So that I think is the biggest thing. And also, feel free to share your story with other people. It's amazing how many people that I talk to and Erica talks to that has a mold story in some way, or they either do or they know somebody. I know you're the same, Shemane. It's like I'm running into people all the time with this. So I think if as a community, if we can start elevating this issue, normalizing it, trying to reduce some of the taboo around toxic mold and water damage, I think that we can make a real impact together.
Erica, thank you so much for what you're doing, speaking out and being bold and brave and being an Esther. Anything else that you could say to encourage other people to do the same?
Well, thank you for the opportunity. And just to know that they are not alone. I know there's lots of military members that are afraid to speak out for retaliation or because of these NDAs, but just know that you're not alone and there are resources. And we're working on doing lots of things for military families specifically of Change the Air. So keep an eye out for that. And there's a whole subgroup of us military families who have walked this path. So just reach out and know that you're not alone.
Well, Brandon, Erica, changetheairfoundation.org, right? .org.
That's right.
Thank you so much for joining me. I know we'll be in touch. God bless you both.
God bless you, Shemane. Thank you.
If you want to hear more about my story, you can go to killerhouse.org and read all about it. You can sign up for our email newsletter. I have a powerful new online program coming soon to walk you through how to recognize, remediate, and recover from toxic mold. But don't go away. We've got more coming up. We'll be right back.
Relish the opportunity to be an outsider because it's the outsiders who change the world.
Perhaps you were born for such a time as this. We've been sounding the alarm on an epidemic that's been ignored for far too long, toxic mold. And today we continue that conversation from a place of faith and healing and hope. Our next guests, plural, know the devastation of mold exposure firsthand. They're both survivors. They're both truth tellers, and they have a ministry for the broken. Josh and Emily Rachal depending on which one you talk to. The founders of Malachi's Message, a nonprofit helping families walk through the aftermath of toxic mold with emotional and spiritual and financial support. And she also Emily hosts the Toxic Mold Sucks podcast, giving a voice to stories most people never hear. And their journey is raw. I'm gonna warn you, but their mission is redemptive, and their faith has carried both of them through the fire. Josh and Emily, welcome.
Hi, Shemane.
Thank you for having us.
Yes.
Thanks for being here. So take us back to what happened in your home that changed everything.
You want me to start? Well, we were the kind of people that thought mold was just something that caused allergies until we moved into a townhome that was full of hidden toxic mold in the walls, the HVAC systems. And that first week, all of us started to get sick and symptomatic, including our dogs. Over 13 months, our health just continued to decline. Doctors continued to run tests, no answers, of course. And it wasn't until we went and visited my brother that's when we started to put the pieces together, because we all started to feel better, especially our son, Sebastian. And when we got home, we had the home tested, and it came back with high levels of many different toxic molds in the air samples and swab samples. And so that's when we started to look into it and figure out that was what had deteriorated all of us while living in that home. And then, of course, it continued to harm us because we were pregnant with our second son, who then developed a terminal birth defect called anencephaly. So we lost him at 35 weeks. And then it also went on to kill our beautiful Doberman Kuja from her injuries.
I am so sorry. This is the devastation that people don't realize, Josh, when you talk about toxic mold, and you see it every day, you witness it. Why do you think that builders are building such crappy homes? I welcome a builder who knows what they're doing and who cares, but it doesn't seem like they're out there, does it?
Not that I have found. And, they're building crappy homes because they have crappy subcontractors and they are not overseeing the work. They're not ensuring that the minimum building code standards are being followed. The catch is, if the International Residential Code is followed, actually the home will be mold-free. Of course, a pipe could bust, things like that, but we're going to know about that. But if the code is followed to a T, then we will have a mold-free home.
And it's interesting to me because every day I get hit with DMs or friends of friends asking, well, what were your symptoms? Well, how did you know? I wrote a book about it, Killer House. You guys have talked about it a lot. And we just had Brandon Chappo from Change the Air Foundation. And there's so many other people who are speaking out, but they're not getting it. Why is it that they don't understand the true devastating effects of toxic mold? And neither do doctors, Emily.
Well, they're not taught about it in medical school, so they can't know what they were never taught. But I do see a lot of hope because I'm seeing more medical doctors. We were just referred by a major hospital. They had us on a resource list because they ended up thinking it could be mold causing this patient's symptoms. So that is a huge win for me, that I feel like more medical doctors are starting to wake up to this. And I heard the tail end of Brandon Chappo and y'all's interview. Josh, we get a cease and desist from those military housing communities when he goes out there to do the assessments and to test. So we can't provide that information.
All right, let's switch to something more positive. You've turned this mess that you've lived in, this nightmare that you and so many other people have experienced, you've turned this into a message. Tell us about Malachi's Message.
Malachi's Message is a nonprofit organization in Texas. We are dedicated to spreading awareness about mold and what it can truly do, educating people, providing emotional support through our online peer-to-peer support group, as well as providing financial grants to Texas residents. Right now, we are helping kids replace their toys that they lost to mold. So we have that grant open currently. We just created our first kids educational series for kiddos. We have a lot of other things that that we do. We the Toxic Mold Sucks podcast, and we have hopeful blogs that people have written who've gone through mold to show that there's hope. We named the foundation after our son Malachi because the biblical meaning of Malachi is our messenger or our angel. And we wanted this foundation to be an angel of assistance as well as a messenger of hope that you will get through this.
I love that. Josh, what's next on the horizon for you? I know you're doing a lot of mold testing, but what can you recommend to people? What are the first things that they should be looking out for?
Not necessarily looking out for the most reputable builder, the biggest builder, all their marketing hype. Start doing your own homework into, okay, what can go wrong during the building process? What can go wrong with improperly installed brick, stucco, or limestone cladding? Even start at the foundation level, meaning before the concrete is poured, we have the forms, you have all your beams. Most importantly, though, you have to have a continuous moisture barrier beneath the concrete foundation. And I see it all of the time where the home can be a year old, but yet it's wet, saturated.
Yeah.
In fact, we can see the water rising through the floor. And that's because no one checked the subcontractors. You have to have a continuous moisture barrier, meaning think of black plastic, approximately 10 mil thick. There can be no tears, no gaps, no cracks. If there are, then water will rise through that, seep through it. To get technical, a home's concrete foundation should never touch the ground.
Yeah. And you've got this information on your website. Is that right?
No, not that information.
No, don't.
This is what he testifies upon.
Well, we've only got about a minute left, but I want to talk about what you're doing with Malachi's Message in December. Rachel and I are going to be speaking there. Is this open to the public?
It is. You can go and purchase your tickets and tables right now. There's also sponsorship opportunities. This year, Rocco and you are keynote speakers, and we're so excited. We're going to premiere your trailer to your new Killer House TV series. The whole theme behind this year is that we're stronger together, because if we don't come together, how are we ever going to, get these issues resolved and corrected? And so we also have a Hope Warrior, surprise speaker as well. But it's on December 6th at the Four Seasons Hotel in Austin this year.
I am so excited. Go ahead.
And there's we're having an educational series as well that morning. So we'll have some classes that morning as well that people can also attend.
Amazing. Josh and Emily. Okay, I said for our audience, there is a little bit of a discrepancy about how to pronounce your last name. It's not just me, right?
Oh, it happens all the time, but it's Rachal.
Or Rachel.
But she likes, see, I say Rachel because that's what Emily wants, and the wife is always right. Don't you know, Josh?
Yes, I do know that very well, Shemane. Thank you.
Josh and Emily, thank you so much for joining me. Malachi's Message.org, is that it? Malachi's Message?
Mm-hmm. Yes.
Malachi'sMessage.org. Go get your tickets now, and you can see Rocco and I, Josh and Emily, and so many other people. Thank you guys so much for joining me. God bless.
Thank you, Shemane.
This has been a heavy show. We've got a lot going on. It always is a heavy show, but I want to share some things with you about some of the things that I do because I had to change my life and I had to seek out things that would make me healthier to keep my family safe and strong and supported, because we're not just called to survive, we're called to thrive and help others. Did you know that your skin absorbs everything that you put on it, including toxic chemicals and lotions that disrupt your hormones or give you headaches? I'm obsessed with Ro Casa Organics. Their skincare line is my absolute go-to. It's clean, natural, non-toxic, and it actually works. There's face serums and muscle balms, magnesium cream that both Ted and I put on our feet at night. Go to rocasaorganics.com/Shemane. That's ROWECASA. organics.com/shemane to get your discount. If you want to hear more about my story, check out my books, Killer House and Abundantly Well, both available on Amazon. It's how I found faith through a life-threatening illness. I'd love it if you checked it out, and go to killerhouse.org to find out more about my documentary and my new program coming soon. Thank you all so much for being here. Esther 4:14 reminds us we were born for such a time as this. God bless. I'll see you next week.
Relish the opportunity to be an outsider, because it's the outsiders who change the world.
Perhaps you were born for such a time as this.